Hi, this is Professor Innes again, and you are now on your 9th module of this introduction course to philosophy. So I'm just going to briefly go over metaphysics, because this is the start of your discussion on metaphysics, and your introduction includes quite a lot of discussion on metaphysical considerations. Metaphysics itself is very difficult to describe, but I'll try and do that, and then we'll go on to particular investigation topics which metaphysicians deal with. And in your introduction you have apparently the 4 major topics of introduction. Right, so what is metaphysics? So for us, metaphysics is dealing with the intangibles, because as we have it as a general understanding, whether it's a correct understanding of the word metaphysics or not, we have it understood that this is an investigation which comes after physical considerations have been resolved. So we have that as a guideline, in the sense that, once we solved all these physical considerations, such as the weight of matter, for example, or the existence of matter itself, we then go on to discuss the intangibles of the consideration of that matter. So again, it's a difficult description to put forward, but it's definitely the case. We in metaphysics are dealing with those intangible considerations. So an example of that straight away would be the consideration of time. Now, I'm sure most of you have considered, well, all of you have considered time as being a very flexible thing. I don't even know what to call it really. It can be quick, it can be slow. If you're in that lecture on mathematics, it could go either quickly or slowly for you, depending on the person in the lecture. Anything, therefore, dealt with in time could be perceived as being quick or slow in time. The meaning of life is another example. What is the meaning of life? That's intangible. We can't go on to another person and say the meaning of life is reading a good book once a week, having reasonable friends, and not involving ourselves in the taking of drugs. That is the meaning of life. Now, they're considerations which could lead towards the meaning of life, but whether or not that is the meaning of life is another matter. So we have a problem in describing the meaning of life. So time as a topic of consideration and the meaning of life as a topic of consideration are both considered by metaphysicians. Now, in your text, you've got the discussion of free will, you've got the discussion of ontology, which deals with universals, you've got the discussion of personal identity, and also you've got the discussion of causation. Now, I'm not going to go through all of those, but I'll just pick on a few for you to get thinking about about the nature of metaphysics. So if we talk about free will, again, free will is something which we talk about, and we dare say that human beings possess free will. But straight away there is a problem, because free will is intangible. I can't prove it exists. Now, I can point to a few incidents over the last few days whereby I think I have expressed actions, I have carried out actions which are proof of me possessing free will. But, unfortunately, the determinist, as you're going to read about, the person who says that all action is predetermined by some previous cause, will come along and say, okay, right, you think that's a free willed action, but if it wasn't for this thing causing it to happen, then that action would not have happened, and that thing was something you did not choose. So if it's the case that I freely chose to buy an ice cream yesterday, and the ice cream was vanilla, and it was in a cone, so it's a vanilla ice cream cone. So I freely chose that to happen, but the determinists will come along later on and say, right, now that's not the case. That's nonsense. You were brought up on vanilla ice cream. You didn't really have much of a choice. Fair enough. You had chocolate ice cream as an alternative, but really that's something you were brought up on. And if I investigate even more, it seems like the rest of your family ate vanilla ice cream as well. That's what you had mostly. So you've been conditioned to like vanilla ice cream. Therefore, it's not a free will decision. So that's the discussion. Now, if the determinists have got their argument sorted, and it's a strong argument, then we've got problems about asserting that people possess free will. So that would be a real strong consideration, or a strong point of contention for the person arguing for free will. So again, this is metaphysics. This is a topic within metaphysics, whereby we've got this intangible thing called free will. People think it exists. And they're quite sure, and they have all these examples of free will decision-making processes, but were they free-willed? Did they really choose those to happen? So that's a free will discussion dealing with intangibles. The main consideration you're going to have in this course is with Plato and John Locke on universals. So we're going to move on to universals right now. And John Locke and Plato, both of them discuss universals, but they have a different position about universals and where they reside. So Plato says these universals to do with justice, to do with beauty, and the consideration that there's only one notion of beauty, only one notion of justice is held by Plato. So he's got a very realist stance on given universals, that they exist independent of us and they are real. There's nothing we can do about them. So in that sense, therefore, we could argue that justice exists as a particular thing, and it's not my opinion to do with justice, it's just out there and I'm supposed to understand what it means and carry it out. That's Plato. Now, John Locke comes along 2,000 years later, and he argues that universals do not exist independent of us. In fact, they're concepts of the mind, and we have made them up. Now, we've made them up probably as a group of people. Yeah, we'll probably have to say it's as a group. But nonetheless, by use of reason, we've come up with these universals which are related to us humans. And in that sense, they're not these independent realities argued by Plato, which existed before human beings came into being. They're what we have come up with. They're what we understand. By use of reason, we've come up to understand them. So, universals are complex, and you're going to have a nice discussion there about universals and have that understanding, that they are complex in nature, and at the end of the day we're asking the question, where do these universals reside? And as far as we're concerned, we've got two different arguments. Which one argument is better than the other? We don't know. We haven't got the measuring instruments to say which one is the better one. You can have your preference, by all means, and as we said before in these modules, your preference could be expressed, but then you've got to prove your preference. Why is your preference to say this is knowledge? It's just an opinion. That's not knowledge. It's just you saying, I prefer this than that. So we've got problems with universals, namely, where do they reside? Are they concepts in the mind, or are they independent realities of the mind? So that's another discussion in metaphysics. So what you're going to do in your journal is you're going to tell me about, I'll tell you what, you can tell me about causation. Give me a rundown of causation. What does it mean, and what are the problems of causation? So, in your journal entry, which is going to be your second journal entry, first you're going to discuss the general requirements as indicated. I'm going to write something, and then you write this bit here, which is, what are the problems of causation? Okay, so it's in the textbook in the introduction, and you should have a nice time having that discussion on causation. And again, it's an intangible, and it is a problem, and we can discuss that problem in the journal. Okay, so what are the problems of causation? That's your journal consideration in reply to my reply. Okay, so I will talk with you soon, and hopefully everything's going okay. Again, if you need anything, anything's not going well, no matter what it is, do contact me, please. Okay, speak to you soon. Bye-bye.